You, O Lord, are our Father, our Redeemer. From of old is your name. My dear friends, these words were spoken by the prophet Isaiah to the people of Israel centuries ago. If you want to know more about this passage, it was at the time the Israelites were taken away from their homes. They were called captives, exiles. That is why in the season of Advent, this reading is always echoed to us, because we have been reminded that we are like people who have been taken away from the presence of God. And what Isaiah is saying is that the people used to enjoy God's presence. So you see, there are men and women who had God before. They had had an encounter with God before. They knew how it means to say, God is my Father. They knew all those ones. But the problem was that at the time Isaiah wrote this passage, God had moved away from their lives. God had gone far from them. And they were yearning for God's return. Listen to the rest of the passage. So he says, O Lord, why do you make us err from your ways and harden our hearts, so that we do not fear you anymore? Because God had gone far, far from them, they sin, and yet they are not feeling sorry for their sins. They make use of God's name and don't feel there is something wrong. God had moved from their lives. He continues, return for the sake of your servants. So they are imploring God to come back into their lives. In Advent, we go to look for God. In Advent, we invite God to come again into our lives. There is no reason that the church has put aside 4 weeks to prepare for this coming, this return of God into our lives. It is a time for preparation because Christmas, as you know, is coming, where we shall think again, we shall remember again the birth of Christ into our world. But most especially, we shall remember his coming again into our lives, what we shall call the second coming. So as we get ready to welcome Christ at Christmas, indeed, in our lives, I want to reflect with you just some 3 points to get us ready for the season of Advent. 1, make time to plan. I'll give you 3 P's. The first P is plan. So make time to plan. You see, when the Israelites heard this passage of Isaiah, they were moved to conversion. They decided to confess their sins, and then God come back into their lives. In Advent, you have to plan to invite God. That is why it's a season of awaiting, expectation, preparation. And as we are expecting any guest, the way we make preparations into it, if somebody is getting married, a child is being born, there is always a preparation. But this time, God is coming back, so to say, into our lives. So the 4 weeks are for planning. Don't walk through these 4 weeks with having no plan for the remaining weeks of the Advent season. Plan to go for Mass on Sundays. Plan to pray your rosary daily. Plan to read your Bible daily. Plan to visit someone who is sick. Plan to call someone who you have not heard from in many years, many months. Plan to be there for people. If we don't plan, we can't finish the Advent season and feel that God has returned into our lives. The second P, no time for postponement. Postponement. You see, for the last 11 months, one thing you can accuse yourself of genuinely is that you have been postponing. I have been postponing. You have been postponing. But in Advent, we don't postpone again. The times we wanted to pray that we postponed are over. Those times are over. In this Advent season, if you know you want to pray, you feel like praying, don't say, I'll do it in the next hour. Do it then, that time. Do it then and there. So in Advent, you don't make room for postponement at all. We want to do whatever we know to be good. See, one time our sin is that we know what we do is wrong, what we say is wrong, but there's also that dimension of sin that says that what we fail to do. So postponement actually can lead to sin. So you have to watch. Jesus said use the word watch. You have to watch the avenues that come to us and we let them go. The avenues to grow in holiness and then we let them go. The avenues to do good and then we let them go. No time for postponement. The second, the last one, then I'm done. The last one is that it is also a time of prayer. Prayer. And this means that we are being called to pray as never before. If you have not prayed at all this year, 11 months ago, we are in December, the 12th month, and you feel that, oh, you pray, but it's not enough, this is the time to say, I feel that I have prayed at least enough. In the next 27 days, in the next 28 days, this year will be off. The whole year will be away. How are we preparing ourselves even to enter the new year? It begins from today. Advent has given us the opportunity to prepare for our last page of the year. And this is the last page of the year, Advent season. So as we go through the remaining 4 weeks of this season, let us make time for prayer. Whatever you call prayer, this is the moment. This is the hour. This is the season to do that. We have our beautiful Divine Mercy devotions. We have our beautiful prayers at the grottos. We have our own midnight prayers. We have our dawn prayers. This is the season for prayer. Because the expectation we are awaiting is that of God himself. And as Isaiah mentioned in the first reading, the people yearn for God's return. It is when we have planned enough, it is when we have avoided postponement and we have prayed enough. Then in the next 4 weeks, when Christmas comes, we can say that I have gone through this Advent season and feel that God has returned into my life. Jesus in the Gospel gives us that word that we should never forget in Advent. He says watch. At least 3-4 times he mentioned that same word, watch. He wants us to watch in the sense that as Christians, we should be on the alert. And the story is simple. A man came, he gives work to his servants, he traveled, he didn't tell them when he was returning. Then he came. When he came, he saw 2 things. Some were seriously, busily doing what he had asked them to do, and others were sleeping. They had postponed the work, they had stopped working, they were sleeping. And Jesus invites us to learn from those who are found working. We should be awake. Jesus comes every day into our lives, but he will come when we shall lie motionless, death. When death comes to us, we have experienced our second coming. We don't know when that will happen. And when Christ comes again, we don't know when that will happen. But today, you know today. You have today. So he invites us to watch that things don't take us by surprise. Don't let Jesus surprise you. Don't let Jesus surprise you. This is the season of Advent, that every day we should be ready for Christ. In our homes, at our offices, in our own hearts. May the spirit of Advent, which is a season of hope. 4 candles there, you can see them there. One is burning, but the other 3 candles left. Surely they will burn, because surely Christ will come. For those of us who have lost hope, already this year, we had plans, then the plans are not happening. You can look to this Advent brief and say that my light will appear. You might be the 2nd candle. You might be the 4th candle. You might be the 3rd candle. But wherever you are, the surety is that there's hope for you. Let us pray that we don't give hope when hope is so close to us. Season is here. Advent is here. Hope in God like never before. And God himself will come closer to us. Amen.